Hi there, my name's Moxfire. Today we're taking a look at a good to good boy transition. Trying to do a video guide explaining how to play from a primarily good board into good boy. So here I get my champion selection. Not a very good pool of champions. Morgan Le Fay I think is pretty much unplayable. Same with Morte. The Fates is okay, but I mean I would way rather have Galahad or something else. So I think today we're just going to go for Sharon, who I also still don't think is good, but out of this batch is definitely the best choice. Round 1, pick one. We have a choice of Happy Little Tree, Rainbow Unicorn, and Polywoggle. Here I'm usually just going for usually the strongest unit, which would be the Rainbow Unicorn, but I decide to go for the Polywoggle because I'm Sharon, and Sharon's ability gives +2/+1 every time it dies, so I assume I eventually will get the Polywoggle off. Polywoggle dies as expected, but it does get the buff. So here, I'm just going to take the spell because I don't really care about what units I get if I want to bread rolling this away, and the spell could possibly discount the entire shop. But I get an Eeny Meeny Miny Mo, which makes me pick up the Mim in order to support the cats. So in the early game, you really want to just play your strongest board, not worry too much about synergy, unless if you're a hero like Mahiri. Basically, play the strongest units with rolling as little as possible will generally help you get to the mid game with a fairly strong life total. Here we actually get to Woggle, which is nice. So the 3-drop that we get out of the Woggle tells us what we're doing. And with a Darkwood Creeper, I'm picking up this pair of Happy Trees because as their health scales, their attack will scale with the Creeper. So I'm pretty happy about this, even though it is pretty late for a Happy Tree. About 1 round. Usually you want it in the 1st or 2nd round. But because of the fact that I have an early Darkwood Creeper, that's the main reason that I'm going for the Happy Tree. So here we definitely lose. Having a Monkey's Paw really early as Trophy Hunter is extremely strong. So no surprise here. We wish that we didn't hit the donkey as much, so we didn't get quite as much damage, but can't really do much about that. So pick up the pair of cats, and I think we're just sticking the Juliet in order to, or the Romeo rather, in order to have strongest board. So one thing I really recommend is playing around with your board and seeing what the most optimized version of it is. Don't be afraid to switch units around if you have enough time. Here they get their adventure off, which is very unfortunate, but can't control the battle RNG there. But it looks like we're pretty strong now. Here we're just looking for the support. And then I think, yeah, we wind up just deliberating over whether or not we want to kidnap. Kidnap can be very powerful, but I'm not against somebody who's super far ahead of me. So I wind up opting out of it, which in the end could have been a bad decision, but we'll see. The support makes my board a little bit awkward, because you always want the Creeper in 7, generally. But I decide that it's fine. For a very strong early mid-game board, this is definitely reasonable. But we decide to roll on as opposed to taking the kidnap. And we see a kiss. An early 4-drop would be nice, so we decide to lock for it. Although now that I look at the level that I'm at, I only got it in 1 round earlier, so it probably wasn't worth it. But if I had actually taken that kidnap, I would have stolen the upgraded adventurer, which would have been really nice. But we didn't do that, so can't play around what we didn't do. Our board is still fairly strong though, so we're not too stressed out about it. So we kiss and we just get sheepdog. Nothing particularly exciting, just a moderate side grade for the cat. We'll pick up that extra support, not be too upset about it. Ring of Meteors actually winds up helping out our board. Fortunately, the trigger from the Court Wizard winds up making sure that we lose this fight. But we did get quite a few stats, so it's not the end of the world. Here we definitely want that experience. We're also looking at the two supports. Decide to go for the Sporko, since we already have a pair for our Good Witch of the North. It'd be nice if we could have picked them both up, but alas, we do not have enough money for it. Just a moderate switch from slot 1 to 2. Usually you want your bigger units in the first slot so they have a higher chance of attacking and doing their damage. So our board's fairly strong now. Creeper's doing quite a bit of work in terms of scaling us. It's nice that we managed to attack that 1/1 there. And we get the extra experience, which is really good, because you want to make sure that you keep pace with the lobby. Here we take the upgrade, so we have a treasure. We're going to go for Sting. We're not sure if we're good or evil, but Sting is generally a good one to pick up because you can use them to power up Woggles and Adventurers in order to make sure that they land Slays. So what I'm considering here is whether or not I want to try to hit a Woggle. Decide it's worth it. There's also more experience. So now we're a full 3 sets of experience ahead, which generally keeps you on pace with the lobby. I generally say that's pretty normal. So here I'm just trying to figure out what the best board is. In the end, I decided to keep the Creeper on the board. Fortunately, Woggle does not Woggle. He does get the buff from Sharon though, so should be able to Woggle in the future. And we're just shy of being able to actually win this fight, which is unfortunate. But we're really close to 6, so we're not too upset about it. So we pick up the Grim Soul in order to make sure that we can Woggle, and then we also roll to see a 6-drop. So we take the Green Knight, and then we're playing the Grim Soul and the Woggle in order to make sure that we actually get the 6-drop from that. And I do a lot of playing around with my board to see what the most optimal board state is. I think this is pretty close to it. Because I'm keeping the Creeper on the board, I decided to go for the Good Witch of the North. So our woggle goes off. We get a shoulder fairy. Not necessarily the most useful. We have been straddling good and evil, but we don't have any evil units with really high attacks, so it's not super useful for us. Absolutely obliterate the ghost here. Now we're 6 and we're offered a good boy in our first shop, so we're super happy to find a good boy. Means that we're definitely going for good boy. And then we're going to pick up the Lancelot, because generally it's pretty easy to get Lancelot off once you have a good boy. Shoulder Fairies, again, is not really doing a ton for me, so I wound up looking at the Lady of the Lake, which we do like ranged backline units when we're playing good boy, so we wind up picking that up. And we'll hold on to the Shoulder Fairies in case we see a True Love's Kiss or something else. Here we're opting not to put the Green Knight behind the good boy, because it's still pretty early in the game, and if the good boy doesn't die, it does cause a little bit of awkwardness if you give it too much health. Here I'm actually looking at it because I'm watching this after I've already played the game. I think it probably would have been better to put the Good Witch of the North behind the good boy, just for the extra attack stats and a little bit less health. But I'm not too upset about the way that this is looking. So now that we're actually in good boy, we're going to be wanting to look for ranged good units, preferably Court Wizards and Royals for our front line, preferably Lancelot and Hercules. We would take a sure shot if we can find one. We kind of want to get rid of the support back line, because what we want is all ranged units in the back. Fortunately, 1 point shy of actually getting our Lancelot to trigger. Doesn't look like it's going to be a huge deal here, though. So here again, we're just looking for Royals, ranged units, more good boys. And we find another good boy. So we're definitely playing the good boy. We're looking at that Greenwood Knight as well, and we're trying to decide how we're going to pick that up. So we'll wind up selling 2 units, which I believe was Sporko and the Happy Tree. Just making sure that I'm putting the strongest Happy Tree on the board. So we're pretty strong now. With Sting, it's not the best good boy build. We're obviously looking for plus 100 sword, but with Sting we're pretty strong, especially because it's early late game. So I'm fairly confident in my board state now. We're also automatically getting Lancelot to trigger here. So I could have considered blocking for the Cupid, but with the way that my backline is sort of getting gummed up with lots of support units, I decide against it. I really just want a Hercules. So having my one good boy lose its attack is kind of unfortunate, but luckily this Sharon buff goes on before the good boy actually dies, which I didn't realize happened until right now. So my other good boy still gets some attack to be able to attack and die. So this person's build is very strong. They have Gloves of Thieving, which means they're going to steal my good boys. They already are fairly good boy, and they have Monkey's Paw with a bunch of sheep, so I'm looking at this board and I'm like, this guy's definitely the person to beat in the lobby. So our Lancelot goes off. Decided to go for Mimic here. Nothing else is really that great. We could have gone for the Hand of Midas, but I'm not really... I want treasure now, so I don't really want to just like automatically upgrade things. That being said, I decided to knight the good boy. But it's just too much value. I can't really pass it up. Especially because we still get to fight other people in the lobby. If it was down to just me and Trophy Hunter, I'd probably dig harder for treasures. But here I can take a little bit of time and just upgrade a good boy. So now, even with the Cupid going off, We're still really strong, so I'm not at all concerned about losing this fight. Even just one upgraded good boy is enough to win the lobby, or win the round rather. So we knocked Galahad out of the game. Generally, I take these health potions. I decide not to here because I really want to get more good boys or at least some kind of treasure. So we pick up a court wizard. Definitely useful with our Lancelot on the front line. We're definitely looking. We're in the market for another royal here, preferably Hercules, but we take a sure shot as well. Not really willing to play any other royals. And we come up short, so we just slot in the court wizard, and then we just try to figure out what the best backline is. So here our first good boy didn't die, which is unfortunate, but we're still fairly strong. And our second good boy dies before our entire front line dies, and having our ranged back line really benefits, as we're able to just shoot out the opponent's line without actually trading in units. So now we're still just looking for good boys, still just looking for treasure, still just looking for a royal. See a true love's kiss. We have a shoulders fairy that's sitting on our bench that isn't really doing anything, so we kiss it for Jormog that will sit on our bench and not really do anything. There's Lady of the Lake. Decide not to lock for it. There's consideration here that locking for the Jormungandr, I was calling him Jormag, Jormungand, but decide against it. It's pretty expensive just digging for a treasure, especially when we could get a 6-drop that actually helps our board. So our opponent has like a better royal board setup for good boy, but we have more good boy, so it doesn't really matter. If we both had the same number of good boys, his board would definitely beat mine. But this explains where all of the royals are, because I can't really find the ones that I'm looking for. But luckily for us, we're strong enough to still beat it. Didn't quite knock them out. So there's a sure shot I missed. I wish I had seen that, because I would have played that over the Happy Tree. So that definitely was a mistake. That was a big mistake, because that was the only sure shot that I see for the entire game, I think. Unless if I missed another one. So here's the Lady of the Lake. I'm just going to take this just because I'm kind of desperate for treasure at the moment, and I really want range backline units. It's a little bit of a sacrifice on the health on the good boys, but it's not so much that it's super detrimental, and having the ranged backline is super strong. Here we see that they have Echo Wood, upgraded good boy, and a bunch of token makers. With the monkey's paw means that they almost always get value out of the peeps as well. So I'm looking at this board state and I'm like, ugh, I think I'm playing for a second here. I don't believe I'm going to be able to win. So we'll just take our loss on the chin here. Hope that our opponent gets knocked out by the TH in the next round, and see what we can do against a ghost. Other true love's kiss. So we kiss the Yermungand, and it turns into a Grumble. So unfortunately, wasted 6 gold on kisses that for units that we didn't really need, but sometimes you low roll. It's just the way that it works. So we see treasure, so we're like, okay, good, treasure. At least we have some treasure. And all of this treasure sucks. We're not spawning units, we're not using wild growth, Dwarven Forge is crap, so we just decide to skip. It's late enough in the game that I'm happy enough putting a Green Knight behind the good boys and being assured that they still will die. And we decide to lock for the Court Wizard, and we also get to look at 2 6-drops as well. So the Ghost, not insanely strong. That backline Spellweaver's kind of scary, but I don't think that we're going to lose this one, so I'm not too stressed out about it. So now the third person in the lobby got knocked out, so we're just against the Trophy Hunter. So we see that, we get a 6-drop treasure. We're hoping for a +100 sword. We don't get it. So Wand of Weirding is better for long-term advantage, but I'm fairly certain I'm going to lose this fight. So I want to pick up the Spear of Achilles in order to just try to get as much tempo in the current round as possible to be able to survive. In hindsight, I probably should have taken the Wand of Weirding, because I think that probably would have been able to win me the game, but I'm fairly certain I'm going to lose anyway, so I just take the Spear of Achilles in order to try to not to lose. So it's sort of an example of playing to not lose as opposed to playing to win. Playing to win, I should have picked up the Wand of Weirding, but playing to not lose, I picked up the Spear of Achilles. Sounds like you're saying the same thing, but they're different. So here I'm just trying to figure out if I can slot the Grumblegore in. I kind of want more damage on my good boys in order to be able to take out the opponent, but I decided it's not worth it. So my good boy not dying here is pretty unfortunate. So I'm just good gaming them, fairly certain I'm going to lose here. They have an upgraded Echo Wood, 2 Bearsteins with a good boy. It's pretty strong build. But surprisingly enough, things start to turn as I realize that I actually might win here. And I do. So, surprising myself, I actually won that fight. So I'm like, okay, let's see what we can do in order to improve our board state. So we start rolling. Decide not to upgrade the Court Wizard. We definitely want 2 Court Wizards. We don't want to upgrade one, because we don't care about the stat boost on the Court Wizard. We really want, right now we really want a Royal. We need this happy little tree to be gone. It's been on my board for far too long. Don't find a happy tree, but we do see a spell that's useful. That particular spell is very good against Echo Woods in the early game. I should have actually saved for the Shrivel now that I think about it, because I thought it was taking the Shrivel. Because the Shrivel can actually delete the Echo Wood before she gets her power, which is actually what I thought I was doing. But I took the Rotten Apple, or the Poison Apple, which actually only reduces the health to 1, so... I mean, it's good against a good boy if I hit the good boy, but that's about it. Which I do hit the good boy, so... helps a fair amount. So our opponent's board's still pretty strong, but because the fact that we hit the good boy and the Echo Wood didn't wind up with like 1,000 health, we actually wind up winning this fight, despite the Cupid being able to go off twice. So now I'm fairly confident in my ability to win. So I take this 5-drop treasure, hoping I find something good. I don't. I decided to take the Tree of Life here. I probably should have just skipped. The Tree of Life didn't wind up providing me a ton of value. I was hoping that it would, because they were attacking me with so many sheep, that it would actually allow me to like eat a bunch of sheep and then heal off of it. But here I have a really awkward decision of what to get rid of. I don't really want to get rid of anything because I really want the Sting. I really want the Spear of Achilles. The Mimic doubles both of those, but I wind up replacing the Mimic, sort of splitting the difference. But I think it was a mistake to take that treasure. I decided to put the Lady of the Lake in the front in the hopes that the ranged unit in the front will be able to trade for at least 1 unit before it dies. I mean, for at least 2 units, rather. Spells didn't really do a ton. My good boy not dying here sucks. I also didn't notice that they get a mirror until the first good boy gets duplicated. We really wish that their good boy had died on the first attack, so there wasn't enough room to make multiple copies of it. But Mimic mirror is pretty much game over for me. There's no real way for me to come back from this. So our opponent takes us out for this round. We still have 1 more health, so we have 1 more round. But honestly, I have no idea what to do. I don't think there's any way to beat that. Trophy Hunter, unfortunately, if they get this late in the game, tends to just start accumulating 7-drop treasures, and you really can't do a ton against it. Pick up a Robin Wood in the vain hopes that the good boy gets nerfed a bit. I mean, gets the lives taken from it a bit, but pretty much should have taken the Wand of Weirding here and then double Pigamorphed. And I think that I might have had a little bit more of a chance to win. I also don't think I should have taken the Tree of Life as well. But our opponent's board state is just way too strong. There's just no way. Especially with the way that the combat RNG is working out here. They're killing all of my other units first before they kill my good boys. But we didn't see any extra good boys. We didn't really see enough royals. We never saw a Hercules. I skipped over 1 sure shot, which might have made a difference. But sometimes you just don't get the units that you need. But this is an example of a fairly smooth transition into good boy. Obviously, we got good boy in our first shop, so that makes the transition a lot easier. But basically, once you hit good boy, you're just looking for range units on the back line, preferably court wizards, a couple royals on the front line, and just as many good boys as you possibly get. But that's an example of a fairly smooth transition into good boys. Obviously, getting good boy in your first shop makes it a lot easier to transition, but from my board state that I had there, it would have been pretty easy to just roll looking for a good boy, pick up the good boy, and then sort of play the way that I did. What you're looking for once you actually hit good boy is ranged backline units, and preferably court wizards with a couple royals in the front, preferably Hercules and Lancelot. So that's it for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you haven't had a chance to check me out, you can always catch me at twitch.tv/moxfiregaming, or you can read my articles at sbbhub.com. Thank you again. I hope you all have yourselves a fabulous day.